Hey kids, and welcome to the Sunday School series focusing on science experiments and how we can relate them to scripture in our own personal life. Last week we learned about slime and how it's hard to tell if it's a liquid or a solid. And we also learned about when we're in a sticky situation, sometimes it's hard to tell right from wrong. Well, we're going to head right to the lab and learn more about non-Newtonian fluids or slime and how to tell the difference between right and wrong. To the lab, let's go. Hey kids, and welcome to the Sunday School Science Lab where we're performing Christian chemistry. Now, how many of you guys made slime last week after Daniel and Zoe gave you the recipe? Well, we made a lot of slime and it's still in perfect condition to incorporate in today's lesson. So what is slime? Well, slime is special because it does not follow Newton's law of viscosity. Viscosity is when you're measuring a liquid's resistance to flow. So, for example, water has a low viscosity because it's thin and it flows very freely. Honey, on the other hand, has a high viscosity because it's thick and it flows very slowly. Also, Newtonian fluids are also affected by temperature, and they can go from liquid to a solid. So, for example, water is a fluid, but it goes into a solid when you freeze it, and it turns into ice. Slime is tricky, and it follows its own set of rules. It's considered a non-Newtonian fluid, meaning it does not follow Newton's law of viscosity. Non-Newtonian fluids change in viscosity when pressure or force are applied. So for example, when I'm very gentle with the slime, whoops, it did break, it flows much easier and it's more like liquid. But when I apply force or pressure to the slime, it goes solid. So I hope you guys all understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about non-Newtonian fluids. Sometimes science can be really confusing, and sometimes knowing the difference between right and wrong when you're in a sticky situation can also be very confusing. So who determines what is right and wrong and good and evil? Well, God is perfect, and He is the absolute standard of goodness. Therefore, He is the only one who can define what is right from wrong and good from evil. Jesus is also the perfect example for us on earth. In John chapter 14, verse 6, Jesus says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." So kids, if we make it our goal to seek God and honor Him in everything that we do, God will help guide us and see what is right from wrong or good from evil. And He will help guide us in the actions that He wants us to take to honor Him. Not only does slime follow its own set of rules, but oftentimes the world follows its own set of views on what is right from wrong or good from evil. The world might tell you if something looks good, tastes good, sounds good, feels good, the outcome is good, then it must be good, right? Well, that's not always the case. And if we just get a little bit off course of what God says is good, it can lead us astray, and that's exactly what the devil wants to happen to us. Now, we need to stay on course and follow God's rules so we don't get stuck in sticky situations, but we get free. So what do we do when we find ourselves in a sticky situation and we need to respond immediately? Well, the first thing we can do is pray. God will hear your cry and He can respond with guidance immediately. The other three things that you can do are ask yourselves these questions. Is your response going to be honoring and pleasing to God? What would Jesus do? And how will my response affect my testimony for sharing the story of Jesus Christ with others? Wow, guys, we covered a ton of stuff, but let me simplify things for you by reading Acts chapter 5, verse 29. It says, we must obey God rather than man. So when you find yourself in a sticky situation, make sure you're pleasing and honoring God, not your friends, not your classmates, not your team, not your teacher, not your neighbor, but God. All right, guys, I can't wait until next week. We're going to be wrapping things up and doing our very last lesson in Christian chemistry. Bye, guys.